Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Esther Carlson, and on this channel you'll find videos all about teaching English online, Christian apologetics, and some travel vlogs and soccer videos. So I've recently begun rereading this book by Abdu Murray. It is called Apocalypse Later. The subtitle is Why the Gospel of Peace Must Trump the Politics of Prophecy in the Middle East. And there's one chapter in here that I wanted to talk a little bit about. It's about Jesus and his conversation with a Samaritan woman. So just to give you a brief overview of what this book is about, I'm just going to read this paragraph here in the back. It says it's addressed to evangelicals, but as he says later, like there are, things that non-evangelicals can also get from this. He said, many evangelicals have used the ongoing conflict in the Middle East as fodder for debates over how to interpret prophecy, instead of seeing it as a human tragedy that it is. In Apocalypse Later, former Muslim Abdu H. Murray urges Christians to change their focus from eschatology to the gospel of Jesus Christ, because only Christ can change the hearts of Jews and Muslims in the midst of conflict. So it's a really interesting book because Abdu Murray, he is a Lebanese American and he has a Muslim background. He's a follower of Jesus now. But he talks about the conflict that he had when he came to realize, I guess, like intellectually, that Jesus is the only way to God. So Jesus, of course, he was a Jew, and we know that during his days there was a lot of ethnic tension between the Jewish people and the Samaritans. And so I really love the book of John. It's a gospel where it shares a lot about Jesus' conversations that he had with individuals. And one that really just has always had a big impact on me is the story about Jesus and the woman at the well. So I'm going to briefly read it. And it says here, he, Jesus, left Judea and departed again to Galilee, but he needed to go through Samaria. So he came to the city of Samaria, which is called Sychar, near the plot of ground that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Now Jacob's well was there. Jesus, therefore, being wearied from his journey, sat thus by the well. It was about the 6th hour. A woman of Samaria came to draw water. Jesus said to her, "Give me a drink," for his disciples had gone away into the city to buy food. Then the woman of Samaria said to him, "How is it that you, being a Jew, ask a drink from me, a Samaritan woman? For Jews have no dealings with Samaritans." Jesus answered and said to her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is who says to you, 'Give me a drink,' you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." The woman said to him, "Sir, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where then do you get the living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well, and drank from it himself, as well as his sons and his livestock?" Jesus answered and said to her, "Whoever drinks of the water will thirst again, but whoever drinks of the water that I shall give him will never thirst. But the water that I shall give him will become in him a fountain of water, springing up into everlasting life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water that I may not thirst, nor come here to draw." Jesus said to her, "Go, call your husband and come here." The woman answered and said, "I have no husband." Jesus said to her, "You have well said, 'I have no husband,' for you have had 5 husbands, and the one whom you now have is not your husband, and that you spoke truly." The woman said to him, "Sir, I perceive that you are a prophet. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, and you Jews say that in Jerusalem is the place where one ought to worship." Jesus said to her, "Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when you will neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem worship the Father. You worship what you do not know. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. But the hour is coming, and now is, when the true worshippers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. For the Father is seeking such to worship him. God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth." The woman said to him, "I know that Messiah is coming, who is called Christ. When he comes, he will tell us all things." Jesus said to her, "I who speak to you am he." That is John 4:3-6. So you can definitely feel the tension at the beginning of this conversation, especially when, Jesus just asked her for a drink, and I'm not sure if she says this out of surprise, why are you talking to me? She says, "How is it that you, a Jew, ask for a drink from me, a Samaritan woman?" Or perhaps she was even implying that Jesus, being a Jew, would probably be racist against her, a Samaritan. or a woman of mixed race. So I'm not exactly sure, but it's also interesting to note that right after this passage that I read to you, the next few verses says, "Just then his disciples arrived, Jesus' disciples arrived, and they were amazed that he was talking with a woman. Yet no one said, 'What do you want?' or 'Why are you talking with her?'" So the fact that this woman was at the well all by herself is a clue that she was probably a social outcast, as women would often come to the well with other women or maybe with their husbands. And we also see here that she had had 5 husbands, and the man she was living with was not her husband. So, I mean, that probably contributed to the fact that she was there alone as well. She was probably looked down upon by many in her society. As the conversation goes on, we see all the different levels of brokenness and hurt in this woman's life. And Abdu Murray, I think he says it well here. He's talking about Jesus. He helped the Samaritan woman get past the sorrow of her past and present, her struggle with ethnic strife, her preoccupation with land entitlement, and ultimately her feeling of separation from God. So Abdu Murray points out here that among the many areas of brokenness in this woman's life, this ethnic tension seemed to be a particularly sensitive one. So when she asked Jesus, "Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself?" It's interesting that Jesus' answer showcases that his intention was not to deal with her issues about ethnic identity and the injustice she had experienced because of it, but instead he wanted to offer her a spiritual identity through her recognition of his true identity. We see here in John 4:14, he says, "Whoever drinks of the water that I shall give him will never thirst," said Jesus. "But the water that I shall give him will become in him a fountain of water springing up into everlasting life." It's interesting that even though Jesus, of course, acknowledged this woman's wounds, he didn't take the bait and quibble about these ethnic tensions and about physicality and geography. Jesus, in his kind and gentle way, he also dealt with her issues of self-superiority. It says here, Jesus conspicuously pointed out to her that salvation is of the Jews. And we can see this over and over again with Jesus' encounters with people, that he'll say something to get people to think a little bit deeper about their own assumptions. And I don't have a whole lot of time to get into it, but in Luke 10:25-37, you see that Jesus deals with a self-righteous teacher of the law, a Jewish man, and he also deals with this issue of self-superiority in his life. So in saying that salvation is of the Jews, that it comes from the Jews, Jesus is just pointing out a theological fact. Of course, this doesn't mean that the Jews, by virtue of their DNA, are somehow saved or exempt from God's righteous judgment. To say that would be to nullify Jesus' next statement, and I think this is the key here, that true worshipers are those who worship in spirit and truth. As Abdu says here, there's nothing in one's particular physicality that puts one in good stead with God. Rather, as we truly grasp the person of Christ, a transformation of our spirit reconciles our relationship with God. So this book is so rich, and I do not have time to get into all of the details, but I just wanted to end with this quote here. Jesus told the Samaritan woman that ethnicity is not ultimately important to God. Jesus told her that geography is unimportant to God. He told her that her spirit, that which makes her a child of God, is what is important. Her entire life, people had treated her unjustly because of her DNA, and she had responded in kind. Her whole life, people had tried to steal away her dignity by focusing on her physicality, and she had focused on it herself. But Jesus told her that God, in his perfect justice, offers membership in the kingdom to everyone, regardless of ethnicity or geography. Through his interaction with the woman at the well, Jesus tells us that the identity that bears the stamp of equality is not the identity born of ethnicity, but the identity that bears the imago Dei, the image of God. So I almost forgot to read the best part, which is her response. Verse 28. Then the woman left her water jar, went into town, and told the men, "Come, see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Messiah?" They left the town and made their way to him. In the meantime, the disciples kept urging him, "Rabbi, eat something." But he said, "I have food to eat that you don't know about." The disciples said to one another, "Could someone have brought him something to eat?" "My food is to do the will of him who sent me and to finish his work," Jesus told them. "Don't you say there are still 4 months, then comes the harvest? Listen to what I'm telling you. Open your eyes and look at the fields, for they are ready for harvest. The reaper is already receiving pay and gathering fruit for eternal life. So the sower and reaper can rejoice together. For in this case, the saying is true, one sows and another reaps. I sent you to reap what you didn't labor for. Others have labored, and you have benefited from their labor. It continues to talk about how because of the woman's testimony, so many believed in Jesus. And I just love this story so much and just wanted to share it with you all. If you all have any thoughts, insights, don't hesitate to comment below. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, please subscribe, and I will see you all next time. God bless. Peace.
Yeah. Girl, you